Imagine living in fear, not knowing who might knock on your door, ICE agents or someone else entirely. That's the chilling reality for many immigrant communities right now. And the increasing use of the National Guard in immigration enforcement is only amplifying that fear, blurring the lines between military support and law enforcement. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this a legitimate effort to combat crime, or a politically motivated tactic to target vulnerable populations? In Chicago, a Venezuelan man named Jackson, we're using only his first name to protect his identity, is living in constant anxiety. He's witnessed ICE raids firsthand, including one where agents landed a helicopter on the roof of his apartment building, arresting over 30 people. The prospect of National Guard troops patrolling his neighborhood adds another layer of dread. As Jackson put it, speaking in Spanish, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish who's authorized to detain people, making life even scarier for him and his family. This sentiment isn't isolated to Chicago. NPR has reported similar concerns in other cities facing National Guard deployments. Dara Lind, a senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, points out a critical problem: the lack of clear distinction between National Guard personnel and federal agents. Often, federal agents wear military-style gear or masks, making it nearly impossible for residents to discern who has the legal authority to make arrests. And this is the part most people miss. The visual ambiguity fuels distrust and fear, regardless of the Guard's actual legal limitations. While US law prohibits the National Guard from making arrests, experts worry that their presence, alongside increased ICE raids, creates a dangerous perception. It allows the Trump administration to conflate violent crime and illegal immigration into a single, manufactured crisis. Is this a genuine concern for public safety, or a calculated strategy to demonize immigrants? The exact role of the National Guard in these deployments remains murky. Consider Illinois, where the Trump administration announced Operation Midway Blitz, a large-scale ICE operation supposedly aimed at fighting crime committed by undocumented immigrants. This came after Trump pressured Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker to deploy the state's National Guard for the same purpose. Pritzker refused, leading Trump to take the unusual step of federalizing the Illinois National Guard and even enlisting the help of Texas Governor Greg Abbott to send hundreds of Texas Guard members to Illinois. Trump's rhetoric has consistently linked crime and illegal immigration, a message that resonates strongly with his base and fuels support for his strict immigration policies. This has resulted in a broad net, catching not only undocumented immigrants, but also legal residents, visa holders, and those granted humanitarian parole. The White House often paints undocumented immigrants as the primary drivers of urban crime, a claim repeatedly debunked by data showing that immigrants are actually less likely to commit crimes than native-born Americans. Officials at the Department of Homeland Security and the White House frequently claim that ICE only targets the worst of the worst, a talking point that doesn't align with arrest data. Lind explains that the administration employs a two-step approach, alternating between claiming to target only serious criminals and advocating for the deportation of everyone without authorization. This strategy capitalizes on broader fears about urban safety, unrest, and the perception of protests as riots. Trump has deployed the National Guard in 5 Democratic-led cities, often against the wishes of local leaders, citing the need to control crime and lawlessness. However, data indicates that violent crime has actually decreased in many of these cities in recent years. Some of these deployments, such as those in Chicago and Portland, have been challenged in court, while others, like those in Washington, D.C. and Memphis, are ongoing. These deployments have coincided with increased immigration raids, blurring the lines between traditional law enforcement, immigration enforcement, and the role of the National Guard. In June, Trump federalized California's National Guard over Governor Gavin Newsom's objections, and sent in U.S. Marine Corps members to quell protests in Los Angeles following increased immigration raids. Protesters clashed with federal agents, and ICE conducted raids at Home Depot stores and other locations throughout the city. A federal judge later ruled that the National Guard's use was illegal, violating the Posse Comitatus Act, which restricts the use of federal troops for domestic policing. Trump has appealed this ruling. Trump has also deployed troops to guard federal agents during immigration enforcement operations. In August, he sent National Guard troops to Washington, D.C., along with a surge of federal law enforcement agents, including ICE, which carried out a significant number of arrests. A similar operation was launched in Memphis in September, with the support of Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. This operation involved multiple federal agencies, including ICE, and resulted in over 800 arrests, a significant portion of which were for immigration offenses, according to Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. In Illinois, Texas National Guard troops were briefly stationed at an ICE facility before their deployment was blocked. In D.C., troops have primarily been involved in cleaning up streets and guarding federal buildings. In Memphis, they have been seen accompanying local law enforcement. Legal experts argue that these deployments demonstrate a clear link between Trump's use of the military and his immigration enforcement tactics. Benjamin Farley, special counsel at the National Immigration Law Center, argues that the administration's increasingly aggressive approach to immigration enforcement inspires protests, which then serve as a pretext for deploying the National Guard and armed forces. The Texas National Guard, previously federalized and deployed to Illinois, has a history of involvement in immigration-related operations. In 2021, Governor Abbott sent troops to the Texas-Mexico border as part of Operation Lone Star, tasked with repelling migrants. In one instance, troops used tear gas against a group of Venezuelan migrants. This operation remains ongoing. Scott R. Anderson, a national security law fellow at the Brookings Institution, observes that the current use of the National Guard, mainly for guarding federal property, is less dramatic than the surrounding rhetoric. However, he believes it pushes the boundaries of the law and could gradually evolve with further deployments. He suggests that the administration is acting incrementally due to the unprecedented nature and uncertain legal ground, making it challenging to respond effectively, but boldly. Is this incremental approach a deliberate strategy to normalize the use of military force in domestic law enforcement? Lind emphasizes that for communities already targeted and fearful, differentiating between the National Guard and federal law enforcement agencies is secondary to staying safe. For them, the distinction is irrelevant when their sense of security is threatened. I don't think a whole lot of people are particularly interested in parsing the relationship between the National Guard and federal law enforcement, she says. What do you think? Is the deployment of the National Guard justified in these situations, or does it represent an overreach of federal power and a dangerous blurring of lines? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the fear in immigrant communities is justified, or is it being overblown by political agendas? Let's discuss.